Look around the room you're sitting in right now. The water in your glass, the air you're breathing, the metal inside your phone. All of it started out as a part of the Earth. But at what exact moment does a simple breeze or a patch of dirt officially become a resource? For a piece of nature to graduate to a resource, it has to pass two tests. First, there's utility. Someone has to recognize a practical need for it. Second, there's accessibility. We actually have to possess the tools to reach it and extract it. Think about the vast lakes of crude oil resting deep beneath the ocean floor. For thousands of years of human history, that oil was completely useless to us. It only became a resource when we finally invented the massive platforms and offshore drilling technology to actually reach it. A resource's value changes constantly, shifting as human discovery and new technology turn raw materials into usable goods. This brings us to the most important element in the entire equation: us. Raw nature is completely inert on its own. To transform those raw elements into anything functional, you need a healthy, skilled, and educated population. We call this human capital. Human capital is what builds the bridge to man-made resources. Our innovation and engineering take raw endowments, like thick crude oil or heavy iron ore, and push them through complex physical infrastructure to produce the fuel in our cars or the steel in our buildings. A nation's primary wealth lies in the ingenuity and training of its people, who provide the essential bridge between the raw earth and the modern world. To make sense of everything the earth offers, we can look at this classification tree. First, we organize resources by origin. Is it coming from living things like plants or non-living things like minerals? Then, we look at development. Are these actual reserves we are actively using today, or potential reserves waiting for better technology to unlock? Next, we categorize them by how long they last. Some resources, like sunlight and wind, are truly inexhaustible, but standard renewable resources, like fresh groundwater and timber from forests, are different. They rely entirely on nature's slow, cyclical replenishment process. There is a common misconception that renewable means limitless. It doesn't. If we pump water out of an aquifer or cut down trees faster than nature's pace of regeneration, those resources will permanently deplete and disappear. Responsible management means looking past how much water or wood we have right now, and instead respecting the exact speed at which nature can replace it. This animated topographical map of India highlights a stark physical reality: nature does not share equally. Because of differences in climate and ancient geological structures, resources are clustered unevenly. You'll find dense iron ore deposits in the east and massive fertile plains sweeping across the north. This spatial unevenness is the engine behind global trade. Because no single region has everything, nations are forced to exchange. India, for example, imports the fossil fuels it lacks, while exporting its geographic surpluses, like agricultural products and iron. But this uneven map also has serious consequences. When a vital resource is scarce but shared across borders, like the waters of the Kaveri River basin, it frequently sparks intense disputes and political conflict. Physical geography dictates exactly where our cities take root, drives the constant necessity of trade, and frequently creates the friction that leads to regional tension. You might assume that if a country discovers massive deposits of oil or gold within its borders, wealth and prosperity for its citizens are guaranteed. But history shows us the opposite is often true. There is a strange reality where having too much of a good thing can actually slow a country down. This resource curse happens when an economy leans so heavily on a single geographic blessing, like oil, that it stops growing in other areas, making the entire nation dangerously fragile. Take Venezuela. They possess some of the largest oil reserves, but an absolute dependence on oil revenue led them to neglect manufacturing and agriculture. When global oil prices eventually dropped, revenues dried up, triggering widespread poverty and an economic collapse. Possessing the physical treasure of natural resources is risky and often meaningless unless a country actively diversifies its economy and uses strong, transparent governance to manage that wealth. Let's bring our focus back to India to see what happens when we prioritize short-term extraction over natural regeneration. This heat map shows the depth of the water level in the Punjab region. Those large, brightly highlighted zones are classified as overexploited. During the Green Revolution, farmers introduced high-yielding, highly water-intensive crops. To keep those crops alive, they had to overpump the underground aquifers at a massive scale. This creates a vicious cycle. As the water table drops deeper and deeper into the earth, the financial cost of pumping it out skyrockets. At the same time, the intensive chemical farming required to maintain those yields slowly destroys the natural fertility of the soil. Treating delicate natural systems like bottomless bank accounts might pay off for a few years, but it eventually bankrupts the very environment we need to survive in the long run. Moving past this cycle of over-extraction requires a shift towards stewardship, building systems that prioritize conservation and recycling while moving away from materials that can eventually run out. We are seeing this shift happen right now through major infrastructure projects. India is investing billions in massive solar parks like this one, harnessing truly inexhaustible energy from the sun to replace finite fossil fuels. And often, the most advanced sustainable solutions are actually echoes of traditional ecological knowledge. In Sikkim, farmers completely abandoned chemical fertilizers and transitioned to becoming a 100% organic farming state. By working with nature's own rhythms, they successfully restored their soil health and boosted their economic returns at the same time. Prosperity depends on our ability to act as stewards of this geography, balancing the immediate needs of today with the long-term resilience of the earth.